Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing His word in sincerity and in truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children that they're keeping His word in sincerity and in truth. Okay, I wanted to go into a lesson today going into how women in the ancient world and our more specifically our foremothers, the wives of our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, well, at least one of Jacob's wives, they were barren at one point in their life. At one point or another, they were barren and was unable to have children. And they understood that a part of their purpose and a part of their worth as a woman came from being able to bear children for their husband. This is what women understood in the ancient world. Not being able to bear children in the ancient world was a disgrace and a shame, and it was something that every woman wanted to do, unlike we have what today's modern day is. Which all of this is the modern day concept of how a man and a woman should be, or the ideas and what women think that how they view their worth, and all of that is being destroyed with this kingdom. And before any woman or any other weird dude come on to the comment section or even try to make a response video off of this is not no Salakia. This is not misogynistic. This ain't no hatred or dislike, nothing against women. It's just going into straight facts according to the scriptures. And women are going to get back into the mindset of not only serving the man, but wanting, and this is going to be more so for the men of the Lord, the elect men, but not only just wanting to serve a man, but wanting to bear his children, because we live in a society where you have the mass majority of women who were supposed to have maybe 5+ children, and at some point in their life, they were just aborting them, They was aborting them. But now in today, we live in a society where you had a lot of women that was, had plan B, plan B so that they couldn't get pregnant, which is the complete opposite. But in the ancient world, that was a disgrace for a woman not to get pregnant. So I'm going to just go into a couple instances in the scriptures, and Lord will is edifying. Now, this is Genesis chapter 11. I'm going to start at verse 27. Now, these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, which is Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. So this is Abraham and his two brothers. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur, of the Chaldeans. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife Malka, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. It said, but Sarai was barren; she had no children. Right. So Sarah was barren for a long time. Now let's hold on. Let me see. Now this is Genesis chapter 16 and 1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said unto Abram, behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in. I'm going to read this in the AMP. Verse 2, so Sarai said to Abram, see here, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. I am asking you to go into the bed of my maid so that she may bear you a child. Perhaps I will obtain children by her. And Abram listened to Sarai and did as she said. Let's see what the footnote said. It said this must have been an acceptable practice in that time and culture based on the idea that children of such a union would belong to the owner of the slave girl. Abram undoubtedly had informed Sarah of the Most High's promise to him, and Sarah perhaps thought that this was necessary in order to bring about the Most High plan for them. So what she didn't understand was the Lord had, at a certain time later in their lives, promised to, he was going to give them children later. But she thought that maybe that was how it was supposed to be, which the Lord did allow a union to have. He allowed Hagar to have a children because a nation came out of that, Ishmael. Now it says verse 3, and after Abram had lived in the land of Canaan 10 years, Abram's wife Sarah took Hagar, the Egyptian maid, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his secondary wife, which is a concubine. He went into the bed of Hagar, and she conceived, and when she realized that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress, regarding Sarah as insignificant because of her infertility. So Hagar thought that she was better than Sarai because she was like, well, she can't get pregnant. But that was the culture, and that is the culture. It's just being under Esau Edom, he has really indoctrinated these women into thinking getting pregnant or having your children. First of all, women are not supposed to be just sleeping around. So if you got pregnant by a random man or somebody that you really wasn't into or wasn't planning on being with, that's your fault. But if you're with a man or with the man that you're dealing with, or your husband, getting pregnant is not holding you back. Because you got a lot of women that think they get pregnant, it's going to halt their dreams and hold them back. But your purpose, your dream should be tied to you building a legacy with that man, which comes a part of that is having children together. So this is why Hagar looked with contempt on Sarai, because she was like, well, shit, we don't need her. She can't even have children. Verse 5, then Sarai said to Abram, may the responsibility for the wrong done to me by the arrogant behavior of Hagar be upon you. I gave my maid into your arms, and when she realized that she had conceived, I was despised and looked on with disrespect. May the Lord judge who has done right between you and me. But see, Sarah, she didn't understand, and women, they get emotional. She was like, Hagar over here acting like she better than me. And this because of you. She was blaming Abram. But they didn't understand. This is what his response was. But Abram said to Sarah, look, your maid is entirely in your hands and subject to your authority. Do as you please with her. So Sarah treated her harshly and humiliated her, and Hagar fled from her. But the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness on the road of Egypt by the way of Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, where did you come from and where are you going? And she said, I am running away from my mistress, Sarah. And the angel of the Lord said, go back to your mistress and submit humbly to her authority. Right. Then the angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly multiply your descendants so that they may be too many to count, which her descendants is Ishmael. I'll read the next verse. And the angel of the Lord continued, behold, you are with child, and you will bear a son, and you shall name him Ishmael. The Most High is God hears, because the Lord has heard and paid attention to your persecution, your suffering. Which I ain't got to keep going. Now I just want to get, is it 18? It might be 18. Oh, wait. Here we go. This is Genesis 17 and 15. Then AMP, then the Most High said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you should not call her my name Sarai, which means my princess, but her name shall be Sarah, which means princess. It says the difference in this, the footnote says the difference can be And the name can perhaps be seen in a comment by the rabbis. At first, she became a princess to her own people, but later she became a princess to the entire world, which she became a princess for the nation of Israel. It says, I will bless her, and indeed I will also give you a son by her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. It said that Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to the Most High, that Ishmael, my firstborn, might live before you. But the Most High said, no, Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son indeed, and you shall name him Isaac. Laughter. It says, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after them. He told him, I just keep going. As for Ishmael, I have heard and listened to you. Behold, I will bless him and will make him fruitful and will greatly multiply him through his descendants. He will be the father of 12 princes, chieftains, and I will make him a great nation. With my covenant, my promise, my solemn pledge, I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. So the Lord said, look, I'm coming back next. You're going to have a son next year. Now let's get it. Now this is Genesis 18, starting at verse 9. Then they said to him, this is when the angels, Yahushua and the two angels came to him. Then they said to him, where is Sarah your wife? And he said, there in the tent. He said, I will surely return to you at this time next year. And behold, Sarah your wife will have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door, which was behind him. And the footnote says, you gotta get it. In verse 11, now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in years. She was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself when she heard the Lord's word, saying, after I have become old, shall I have pleasure and delight my Lord, husband being also old? And the Lord asked Abraham, why did Sarah laugh to herself, saying, shall I really give birth to a child when I am so old? Is anything too difficult or too wonderful for the Lord? At the appointed time, when the season for her delivery comes, I will return to you, and Sarah will have a son. Then Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, because she was afraid. And the Lord said, no, but you did laugh. So they got up and left. So let's see. Let's get Isaac. Let's spell it wrong. That. Hold on. No, then. Oh. Okay. Now this is Genesis 21. I'm gonna start at verse 1 in AMP. The Lord graciously remembered and visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for her as he promised. So Sarah conceived and gave birth to a son for Abraham in his old age, at the appointed time of which the Most High had spoken. Abraham named his son Isaac. Laughter, the son to whom Sarah gave birth. Right. So the Lord had them. I'm gonna keep going. Abraham was 100 years old. Well, so Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, just as the Most High commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born. Sarah said, the Most High has made me laugh. All who hear about our good news will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have given birth to a son by him in his old age. Right. Right. So the Lord, hold on. I'm gonna keep going. The child Isaac grew and was weaned, and Abraham held a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. Now, as time went on, Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had born to Abraham, mocking Isaac. Therefore she said to Abraham, drive out this maid and her son, for the son of this maid shall not be heir with my son Isaac. This situation distressed Abraham greatly because of his son Ishmael. The Most High said to Abraham, do not let it distress you because of Ishmael and your maid. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her and do what she asks, for your descendants will be named through Isaac. So the point that I'm going to, making was Sarah understood that a part of her purpose and, and her worth came through bearing children for Abraham, because that continued on the lineage of the sons of God until the Lord established the nation of Israel. She understood Abraham's role and his purpose with the Most High, which is why she went. Another thing was, it was a part of a woman's nature to bear children for her husband, which is why she really wanted to do so. But all the women had that mindset, and that mindset is coming back to the earth in a major way. Now let's get Genesis 25. Let's go to Isaac. Verse 20, AMP. Well, I'm going to start at 19 now. These are the records of the descendants of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Armenian or Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Armenian. Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was unable to conceive children. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived twins. Right. So it said she was barren, and he prayed to her, and it took a toll on her, which I'm going to get, because I got a chat in Chat GPT about that, But I'm just going through various women that were barren. And I'm going to get next Rachel, Leah and Rachel and Jacob, and the story behind that. But before I get them, because I actually got a little bit more information on them, but before I get them, I want to get the story of Samuel. Okay, this is Samuel chapter 1:1. There was a certain man of Ramatha Ayam Zophim of the hill country of Ephraim, named Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tahu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had two wives, one named Hannah and the other named Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. This man went up from his city each year to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh. Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, were priests to the Lord there. When the day came that Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions of the sacrificial meat to Peninnah, his wife, and all her sons and daughters. So he had many children with her. But to Hannah he would give a double portion because he loved Hannah, but the Lord had given her no children. Hannah's rival provoked her bitterly to irritate and embarrass her because the Lord had left her childless. See, it was always strife especially if a man had multiple wives. Um, and it was always go. Well, we can see with Hagar and Sarah. Um, Hagar started to feel feel superior to her mistress, Sarah, because she was able to have children and Sarah was not. Just like now, it says Panah. Where is it? Penina Salakia was she was she had children and Hannah did not. And that's it, like it said, verse 6 in the KJV. And her adversary also provoked her sore for to make her fret because the Lord had shut up her womb. That was a very serious thing in the ancient world. Not how Esau Edom got it today. These women are able to bear children and they're destroying their womb, But it's a beautiful thing that the Lord has given women. Verse 7. So it happened year after year, whenever she went up to the house of the Lord, Penina provoked her, so she wept and would not eat. Then Elkanah, her husband, said to Hannah, "Why do you cry and why do you not eat? Why are you so sad and discontent? Am I not better to you than 10 sons?" So it said he had 10 sons by his other wife, but she had none. And that took an emotional toll on her because she wasn't able to bear children. It made her feel some type of way. So Hannah got up after eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his seat beside the doorpost of the temple tabernacle of the Lord. Hannah was greatly distressed, and she prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish. She made a vow saying, "O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction or suffering of your maidservant and remember and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. A razor shall not touch his head." Right. So she was making, like I said, she made a vow to the Lord. She was like, "Lord, if you give me a son, I promise to give him over to you. And he's gonna be doing whatever you command him to do." Verse 12. Now it happened as she continued praying before the Lord that Eli was watching her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her heart or her mind. Only her lips were moving and her voice was not heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. Eli said to her, "How long will you make yourself drunk? Get rid of your wine." But Hannah answered, "No, my Lord. I am a woman with a despairing spirit. I have not been drinking wine or any intoxicating drink, but I have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your maidservant as a wicked and worthless woman, for I have spoken until now out of my great concern and bitter provocation." Then Eli answered and said, "Go in peace, and may the Lord God of Israel grant your petition that you have asked of him." Hannah said, "Let your maidservant find grace and favor in your sight." So the woman went on her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. So the Lord cheered her up. He cheered up her countenance, especially after praying. She felt better. Now, the family got up early the next morning, worshiped the Lord, and returned to their home in Ramah. Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her prayer. It came about in due time, after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son. She named him Samuel, because I have asked for him from the Lord. Right. So, and she kept a word with the Lord too. I want to get. Let me see. Because I know the Lord, he had gave her more children too. I was trying to see if I can go straight to it. I don't forgot where it's at. But he gave her more children. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay, here we go. 1 Samuel 2:21. And the time came when the Lord visited Hannah so that she conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the boy Samuel grew before the Lord. So the Lord allowed her to have more children. But Samuel, he became a prophet, a great prophet, and she was at first barren. And it was a very, very vexing and heartbreaking experience for all the women of Israel to not just women of Israel, but women in general in the ancient world, especially, to have a husband and not be able to bear him children. But he's able to bear children with other women, or other women are able to bear his children, but they're not able to bear children. But all the men, majority of the women who were barren, they gave birth to very important figures, important men or important Israelites. Abraham gave birth. It's like Sarah gave birth to Isaac. As we read, we didn't get to Rebecca yet. And neither have we gotten Jacob, Rachel yet. But Hannah gave birth to Samuel. So now let's get Rachel. Rebecca gave birth to Jacob. Let's see, what is it? Okay, Genesis 28. Now I'm gonna start. Is it 28? Might be 27. It's 27. Is it? No, it's 29. Okay, it's 29. Genesis 29:16. Now, Laban, this is in the AMP. Now, Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and figure. And like I said, I went to ChatGPT because I wanted to see if ChatGPT was going to explain the story, and go into depth on not only just, because I told it to start right here and then just explain a little bit more what was going on, both with the rivalry, but also too with Rachel being barren. And I even pulled up an image, got ChatGPT to pull up some images because, like it said, which I ain't read it yet, I'm going to read down to it, then I'm going to pull everything up. Leah's eyes were weak, verse 17. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you as a hired workman for 7 years in return for the privilege of marrying Rachel, your younger daughter. And Laban said, it is good that I give her in marriage to you, then give her to another man. Stay and work with me. So Jacob served Laban for 7 years for the right to marry Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. So he fell in love deep for Rachel, and really didn't have concern about Leah, and that translated all the way over into the marriage as well. So let's get the ChatGPT first. So it says, I asked it to explain Genesis 29:17. It says, Genesis 29:17 says, Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel was lovely in form and beautiful. That's in the NIV. So it says the context, which we know Leah was the older, Rachel was the younger. It says Jacob meets Rachel first and falls deeply in love with her. This verse describes the physical contrast between the two sisters. It says the interpretations differ. The physical meaning, some understand it as Leah's eyes were pale, dull, or lacking in brightness or beauty, a contrast to Rachel's physical attractiveness. So it was basically saying that Rachel possibly, because it don't give no description, but through speculation, it's saying Rachel was possibly more attractive than her physically. And then it goes into a couple different things. It says Rachel was lovely in form of beautiful. It says Rachel was beautiful in shape and beautiful in appearance. This emphasizes both her physical form and her facial beauty, showing why Jacob was especially drawn to her. And this matters to a certain extent as well, because what man wouldn't want to get with a woman that's very fine, that he finds very beautiful and fine? You're gonna want to get with her and have children with her, you know. Now it says a meaning in the story. It says Leah is the elder but less desired. Rachel is the younger, physically attractive, one whom Jacob loves and serves 7 years to marry. It says it also foreshadows Laban tricks Jacob into marrying Leah first. Leah suffers from being unloved, but becomes the mother of many of Jacob's sons, including Judah, the ancestor of King David and Yahweh. And Rachel, though beautiful and beloved, struggles with infertility. So we gonna go into it. So then I asked it to explain verse 31. So we're gonna go back and read verse 31 first. So this is Genesis 29 to 31. Now when in the AMP, now when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, because in the KJV it says hated, but it doesn't mean that he hated her. It means she was less loved than, which I get it. She was less loved, you know. She wasn't liked as much as Rachel was. Look here. And as you can see, it says hated or to hate, but it doesn't mean actually hated. It says specifically a sexual revulsion. Where is it at? One second, it might be in the Bible comparison. Yeah, here we go. In different translations. It said, we start with the CSB. It says, when the Lord saw that Leah was neglected, he opened her womb, but Rachel was unable to conceive. In the NIV, when the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. We read the AMP, but I read it again. Now, when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he made her able to bear children, but Rachel was barren. So as you can see in the different translations, it's not saying that she's actually was hated. It's saying that she wasn't favored. You know, Jacob favored and gave a lot more attention to Rachel than he did with Leah. So that's why I had ChatGPT to explain it. And it said it unpacked. It says Jacob had just married both Leah and Rachel, though he only meant to marry Rachel. It says Laban tricked him into marrying Leah first, and Jacob later married Rachel, as well as another 7 years of service. Jacob clearly loved Rachel more than Leah, as it says in verse 30, which I didn't read verse 30. Let's get it. Verse 30. So it says, so Jacob, AMP. So Jacob consummated his marriage and lived with Rachel as his wife. And he loved Rachel more than Leah. And he served with Laban for another 7 years. Now this is another, where is it at? It might be, yeah, this the chapter. This lets you know he loved Rachel more than Leah, but it doesn't mean that he didn't love Rachel at all. I mean Leah at all. So this is Genesis 32. starting at verse 21. So the gift of the herds of livestock went on ahead of him, and he himself spent that night back in the camp. But he got up that same night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 children and waited over the fort of the Jabbok. Then he took them and sent them across the brook, and he also sent across whatever he had. Wait, hold on. I might have I need to jump down. Yeah, okay, it's in the next chapter. 33:1, Genesis 33:1. Then Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 maids. He put the 2 maids and their children in front, Leah and her children after them, and Rachel and Joseph last of all. And why do you think he did that in that order? He put the handmaids first because those were the least ones he cared about. Then he put Leah second, or Leah third. You know, the other 2 handmaids, they were first and second, and their children. Then he had Leah right after that, and her children. And then he had the most beloved, Rachel, and Joseph last, because those were the ones he loved the most. And those were the ones he wanted to be protected the most. You know? Going to show the level, how the ones he cared about the most, or the order of importance according to Jacob. But the Lord was with Jacob, which I might ask it to explain that too. Now here it is. It says the Hebrew, when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, it says the Hebrew literally means hated, but in the Hebrew idiom it can mean less loved or not favored, rather than act of hatred. So Leah wasn't despised in the sense of abuse. She was simply neglected and unloved compared to Rachel, that's exactly what it means. So it says the statement shows something crucial about the Most High's character. The Most High sees the suffering of the overlooked and unloved, just as he saw Hagar's distress earlier in Genesis 16:13, which we read. The Most High notices Leah's pain and acts on her behalf. And he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. This expresses divine intervention. Leah's fertility is presented as a gift from the Most High, a form of compassion and vindication. Salakia. Rachel's barrenness sets up the next part of the story, where envy and competition begin. Envy and competition between sisters will grow. Now, this is important because this is what going into what I was trying to say. In ancient culture, childbearing was considered a sign of honor and divine favor. So the Most High granting Leah children served both as a comfort and as a way of reversing human favoritism. But like it said, in ancient culture, childbearing was considered a sign of honor and divine favor, which is something that this modern society don't view it as an honor and divine favor. And if this modern society did, there wouldn't be no such thing as abortion clinic, or it wouldn't have been a thing of abortion clinic, Plan B, or all the forms of not getting pregnant and women trying to keep from getting pregnant so they can keep living the lifestyle that they want to live, doing what they want to do, but still enjoying the pleasures of sex, which is something that is supposed to be intimate between a husband and his wife. They just out here having sex with anybody. But see, that's why, again, this whole modern society is falling, and all of its ideologies are falling with it, because it's completely against how the Lord created and set everything up. In the ancient world, being barren was a sign. It was dishonorable. Women didn't want to be barren. They wanted to bear children. And just think about, let me get another precept. I think her name was Malka. Let me see. This is 2 Samuel chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse... 18 AMP. When David had finished offering the burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts or armies, and distributed to all the people, the entire multitude of Israel, both men and women, to each a ring-shaped loaf of bread, a cake of dates, and a cake of raisins. Then all the people departed, each to his house. Then David returned to bless his household, but his wife Milcah, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious and distinguished was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself and stripped off his kingly robes in the eyes of his servants' maids, like one of the riffraff who shamelessly uncovers himself," which I think that happened early in the chapter. Right here, verse 16. Matter of fact, start at verse 14. And David was dancing before the Lord with great enthusiasm. And David was wearing a linen ephod, a priest's upper garment. So David and all the house of Israel were bringing the ark of the Lord up to the city of David with shouts of joy and with the sound of the trumpet. Then, as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Milcah, Saul's daughter, David's wife, looked down from the window above and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she felt content for him in her heart because she thought him undignified. It says she despised him. Let's see what another translation say. Or they all saying the same. Oh, well, I get the BBE. When the ark of the Lord came into the town of David, Milcah, Saul's daughter, looking out of the window, saw King David dancing and jumping before the Lord. And to her mind, he seemed foolish. She didn't like what she saw. Here it is. David was extremely happy, and she didn't like it. You know, like modern day women now. They see you feel good. They see you happy, and they ain't the cause of it, and they hate it. So she was hating on him. So now jumping back down to verse 20. Then David AMP returned to bless his household, but his wife Milcah, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious and distinguished was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself and stripped." Right, see, Eve really hates us. Right, there it is. She hating on David, who uncovered himself and stripped off his kingly robes in the eyes of his servants' maids, like one of the riffraff who shamelessly uncovers himself. So David said to Milcah, "It was before the Lord that I did this, who chose me above your father and all his household, and all his house, to appoint me as ruler over Israel, the people of the Lord. Therefore I will celebrate in pure enjoyment before the Lord. Yet I will demean myself even more than this, and will be abased in my own sight and yours as I please. But by the maids whom you mention, by them I shall be held in honor." Milcah, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. It says, at this time, being childless was a social stigma and often considered an act of divine judgment. Her failure to produce a child prevented Saul's line from being continued through David, which women don't continue the lineage. A man continues the lineage. But understanding that there was a marrying of the house too, it would have been conjoining of the families. But she didn't bear no children. So that was a punishment. And then, like it said, it was a social stigma, which I get it right here. It said it was a social stigma, meaning everybody talked about it. Everybody looked at her like, shit, what's wrong with her? David ain't give her no children. The Lord ain't give her no children. She died childless. That's a horrible way to go out, for a woman. So going back to ChatGPT, it says, in ancient culture, childbearing was considered a sign of honor and divine favor. So the Most High granted Leah children served both as comfort and as a way of reversing human favoritism. So let me jump down, because I didn't want to make it too long. I really tried to get to the point, but I see I'm going longer than I thought. Now, It says Leah became the mother of several key tribes of Israel, including Judah, through whom the line of David and ultimately Yahweh Shah comes. So the unloved wife ends up playing a central role in a redemptive plan. Let's see. Then I said explain Rachel's response to all of this. Now keep in mind, like I said, Rachel was which I'll get it later, but Rachel was the loved, Leah was the unloved. Now this is Genesis 30 and verses 1 and 2. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister. So she said to Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." Rachel, though deeply loved by Jacob, envies Leah because Leah has children while she does not. Her cry, "Give me children or I'll die," reveals deep anguish and social pressure. In her culture, a woman's worth was often tied to her ability to bear children, and that has not left the earth. That this modern society was just an illusion. This world that we know as that we living in America, all of it's all an illusion. Because again, as America crumbles and it falls, everyone is going to go back to the ancient culture of thinking and how things are supposed to be. So even this concept, women's worth, will be tied to their ability to bear children. A lot of women will not get that opportunity that they've had when they was in this world. And what I mean is, when this society was up and functioning, the women that's now about to try to tap, a lot of women that's now trying to tap into being a wife and a servant to a man and trying to bear his children, they're not going to make it. You know, only the elect women will, the ones who's actually made that transition before the desperation. And you're gonna have a lot of women that do get their mind together through desperation, you know, but the 2/3, majority of the 2/3 are women. So that lets you know a lot of women will not make it. Which is giving a lot of information, but I kind of want to just get straight to the point so I can go ahead and wrap it up, because I didn't want to make it too long. And we understand that it's a rivalry between the two. So I'm going to just make sure ain't nothing else. All right, so the summary, the theme, it says, love, the ones that was loved by Jacob, Leah was loved less, but Rachel was loved deeply. And this again goes into their appearance. It says the fertility, which for Leah was immediate and abundant, but for Rachel was delayed and difficult, which was all of this was strategically done by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, because Rachel gave birth to Jacob's last son, which was Joseph. Joseph. Well, I'm sorry. Benjamin was the youngest, but she gave birth at the time it was his youngest son before Benjamin came. She gave birth to Benjamin as she died giving birth to Benjamin, but at the time with Joseph, when that was his first son by her. And the Lord strategically had him to be born at that time because Joseph was going to be the one to get sent off to Egypt, and to prepare the way for the rest of the nation to be nourished. Now it says emotional state, Leah felt unloved, but Rachel felt unfulfilled. And it says the Most High's action, he opened her womb, which was for Leah, but he remembered to open Rachel's womb later. It say the lesson says the Most High sees the unloved, but he also hears the desperate. So it says the Most High, both women's experiences show the Most High values and blesses people beyond human favoritism or status. And then, it was asking that. So what I wound up doing was just asking ChatGPT to give an image of, what if, what Leah and Rachel could look like. I had to ask, like, if they were black, what would they look like, this, that, and the third. Try to give a modern image and a ancient image. So this is what it wound up giving me. In the different prompts I had to type in, trying to get something that would be actually usable. But of course, it's this is a modern version. If it was a modern way, what Rachel would look like versus what Leah would look like, and why Jacob would choose Rachel over Leah. This is not accurate because it doesn't give anything. It doesn't give them a description or skin tone or nothing like that. This is just for an example, just to give the idea. Because all of this, and the reason why I even did this, because it also paints the story of Jacob and Rachel and Leah. Because Rachel was the love. It said she was beautiful in form, and she was beautiful, and he loved her. But Leah didn't have that same spark. And then I, did, them in the ancient attire, what they would look like, an ancient attire versus something more modern. And then it gave this one for a modern day picture. If, for men in this time, what we would relate to, versus what, Jacob probably would have saw or seen in his time, in which it did it where they both was actually attractive. Obviously the one on the right seems a little more attractive because she has a more youthful face. But this one, it gave the best depiction of, the contrast. But it was just trying to type in it because, like I said, it painted the story. All of this was important to the story. Jacob loving Rachel more than Leah because the Lord opened Leah's wound over Rachel for a long time. But Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. So I didn't want to drag this on, make it too long, but Lord will, it was edifying. Lord will, some edification can come out of it. The mindset of women going back to being actual women and being feminine is coming back to the earth. And just how, like, in the ancient world, women wanted to bear children because a sense of purpose was tied to it, that's coming back to the earth too. So Lord will is edifying. On that note, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping this word of sincerity and the truth. Until next time, shalom.